spiritual, believing in God, servant of the one true God, religion, religious aspect. Detailed brief breakdown of spiritual, believing in God, servant of the one true God, religion, religious aspect. The untold origins of all religions in Part 1, tracing the first gods of ancient humanity reaction. How many is passed through plus our channel? So what are we doing? Spiritual believing in God, serving the one true God, religion, religious aspect, and the untold origins of all religions. Part 1 tracing the first gods of ancient humanity reaction. In modern times, the term has spread to other religious traditions. Important to refer to a wider range of experiences, including a range of esoteric and religious traditions. Modern usages tend to refer to a subjective experience of a sacred dimension and the deepest values and meanings by which people live, often in a context separate from organized religious institutions. This may involve belief in a supernatural realm beyond the ordinarily observable world, personal growth, the quest for an ultimate or sacred meaning, religious experience, or an encounter with one's own interdimensional spirit. To believe in God means to accept God's existence and reality. That's the believing in God. The term servant of the one true God is a concept found in Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, and some Hindu traditions. To describe followers who are dedicated to a single supreme deity in these religions, being a servant of God involves demonstrating loyalty, selfless devotion, and active obedience to divine commands, often through compassion, service to others, and personal sacrifice. We will be reacting to the untold origins of all religions. Part 1 traces the first gods of ancient humanity. Reaction. Now let's see the reaction. I'll tell you every report for the reaction of video. So,
hey guys, today we're starting with a new series that might scare your socks off or surprise you beyond belief, because we're going to dig. We're going to look into the origin of all religions, when and how it all started and changed over the centuries. This series is so So who were the people who went after the flood before the Tower of Babel and also after? Now who were the people who went after the flood before the Tower of Babel and also after? Now when we look at history, we need to look at the evidence of these first humans and the gods or God they worshipped. A lot of people think that the ancient Sumerians were just strange people that's not connected to the Bible at all. From Adam to Noah, there was 10 generations. At the 7th generation, something started to happen. Where do all our religions come from originally? Let's take a look at the Blackheads first. Who are they? Where do they come from? There's even some writings that talk about how these Nephilim drank the blood of humans as well, and some people had rituals. But take a look at how Genesis describes this period. Hey guys, today we're starting with a new series that might scare your socks off or surprise you beyond belief, because we're going to dig deep. We're going to look into the origin of all religions,
10 generations of knowledge,
and how it was started and changed over the centuries. This series is so important because we human beings, we live according to what we believe, right? The problem is our beliefs differ. One person's right is another person's wrong. In other words, not everyone can be right. So we have to ask ourselves, how and why are we really here on Earth? What created the universe with time, space, and matter? And of course,
Very interesting word. I think he's misrepresenting the facts and talking rubbish.
Where do we go when we die? And we have to ask, is there different worlds out there? Different dimensions? Spiritual beings? Or aliens? Now, to answer these very important questions, there are other questions we need to answer first. Where do all our religions come from originally? In other words, who were the first humans and what gods or god did they worship? Before Islam, before the Romans, Greeks, Aztecs, and before ancient Egypt. Now, when we look at history, we need to look at the evidence of these first humans and the gods or god they worshipped. One of the best and the most historically descriptive books out there, or sources, is the book of Genesis, with so much detail, written by Moses in Hebrew around 3,400 years ago, and who had a high-quality Egyptian education as he basically grew up with the Pharaoh. But it is not the oldest written down information we have. So in this series, I want to focus on all the other historical writings before Moses to see if these recordings agree with what Moses wrote. Now we know all human cultures and languages can be traced back to the land of ancient Mesopotamia that began before and after the Great Flood. The people first settled down on and around Mount Ararat, according to the pottery evidence we have there. And then, over time, some families gradually moved down from the mountains of Ararat after the flood to dwell in the land of Sumer. Most of them were known as the Semites and Sumerians. Now we have to look at what these cultures wrote down, because they were there, right? We weren't. So, do we have any ancient writings? Yes. Many of these tablets were lost into history, but many have been found, especially the 30,000 tablets that were collected in a library at Nineveh, including the Epic of Gilgamesh, the Syrian king Ashur-bani,
actually known as Nineveh. It's actually pronounced Nineveh.
Ancient records, we know that these people, the ancient Sumerians, called themselves the black-headed people. This is interesting because it means they wanted to differentiate themselves from other people who also lived in the sun, who probably started to spread throughout the world. What is shocking is that these blackheads recorded in their legends that all weapons, tools, and amazing inventions were given to them by the gods, plural. Wow, these people received some special knowledge from these beings. Some people today say that they are aliens. That later. First, we need to talk about who these people were and the gods they worship. Let's take a look at the blackheads first. Who are they? Where do they come from? According to their writings, they were created at a place called Nippur, a place where heaven and earth connects, comes together, which means the realm of humans and gods.
Doesn't make sense.
We already know that they lived before the flood,
That's true.
the Great Deluge, the antediluvian world, but also after that. We know that they moved down from the Mount of Ararat because the pottery we found, and they moved into the plains, ancient Sumer. Remember, at this time, all the people spoke the same language, before and right after the flood, up until the Tower of Babel, also known as a temple, also known as a ziggurat. When new languages came and spread into all the world. Now, according to their records, they were created as male and female. Very unlike what people say today, right? That there are more genders. But more about this later. They were created to be male and female with a command to multiply on the earth. and to work the ground. Sounds very similar to the book of Genesis. It was written in Hebrew, a language that came much later. It is the same story, but the Hebrew book of Genesis covered it in more specific detail. And there's a lot more manuscripts of it. Now, just to make this clear, one thing to keep in mind, just because something is written first doesn't make that true. For example, let me give an example here, because people are people and people lie, right? Because they have agendas. A good example is what happened with Trump. The first news company said Trump fell to the ground at speech, while actually he ducked because he was shot at. Then later, with time, some sources accurately said it was an attempted assassination, and they had more detail. Humans don't change, right? They lie, some people believe one.
People talk rubbish, and they talk nonsense, backside, coming on nonsense, backside everything nonsense. I believe you on that. You're talking about some of that right now, but yeah. We all lie, we all talk rubbish.
Some people write down lies that they don't even know that they did evil. Right? But it is.
That's true.
All ancient sources.
Exactly.
The evidence points to the fact that there was a global flood. People lived before the flood. When we look at the book of Genesis, when we look at the Apocrypha books like the book of Enoch, when we look at what the Sumerians wrote down on their tablets, and they explain what the world before the flood was like. The Apocrypha, for example, explains that fallen angels rebelled against the Most High God. And they fell to earth, led by a fallen angel called Azazel, who specifically came to Cain's descendants to give them secret arts and to sleep with the woman to create the Nephilim. They were mixed breeds of angel and human DNA, most of them powerful giants. Now, people wanted to, and some were forced to worship them. These fallen angels and Nephilim lived among these people as gods ruling over them. Now, regarding the pre-flood world, the antediluvian world, it is interesting what Gary Wayne wrote in his books called The Genesis 6 Conspiracy. He said Cain and the fallen angels transformed the Sumerian sect from a nomadic hunter and gatherer society into an agrarian-based society. Cain, Enoch, and the fallen angels then transformed the Sumerians into a society of builders and masons, worshipping the 7 sacred sciences, along with their false gods, just as the craft legends record.
They were false gods.
Now, please don't confuse this Enoch with the good Enoch from the family line of Noah and Seth. This is the evil Enoch from the line of Cain that have the same names. Now, many ancient writings explain how evil the world became before the flood, including the Bible, Genesis. It became so evil with these fallen angels, the Nephilim, aka demigods, and evil cities of people who just did evil continually. Murder, rituals, rape. It was a society of evil people who immersed themselves in mysticism and even other unthinkable sin, like sacrificing people. It became so bad that God had to purge the world with a global flood. There's even some writings that talk about how these Nephilim drank the blood of humans as well, and some people have rituals. But take a look at how Genesis describes this period of complete evil. Genesis 6 verse 5. The Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every intention of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually.
Sure.
You see, there's no other choice but for God to stop it. Just think about the unthinkable hurt, pain, and suffering everybody went through. Kids grew up in this sick world. So God came and He purged it. Specifically also because of the fallen angels and Nephilim and because of what they did. Now the black-headed people, the ancient Sumerians, they also said there was a great flood. The most famous record of this is the Epic of Gilgamesh. Then there are others, like the Atrahasis Epic and the Sumerian King List. Then as time went on, after the Sumerians, other cultures came, and we also read from their writings, their records, that there was a flood. And after the flood, there was a man that survived. Most of them also talk about his family. And then they repopulated the whole earth. Their names changed because languages changed. The Bible mentions Noah and his 3 sons. The ancient Sumerians called him Zuesudra in one of their writings. In another, Upnapishtim. In Greek mythology, they call him Deucalion. In the Hindu mythology, we have Manu. In Chinese mythology, we have Fuha. And even in Hawaiian mythology, we have Nubu. And the list goes on and on. Most cultures in the world have stories about the flood. Why? Because there was a flood. Or in Providence, you might even call the things most people don't know about the flood. Please check out after this. Now there's also something very interesting about Atlantis that's connected with the time period before the flood, but I will come back to this later in this series. People forget this time period from the beginning of the world, creation, to the flood was actually a very long period of time. Some cultures call it the first time, or the golden age. Adam is called King Atava in the Sumerian king list, or Adama in Sumerian lore. So this was the time period that the Sumerians described as before the flood, where this king, Atama, was seen as the son of Ruha, which just means priest and king. So it wasn't just a king, but a priest. A priest to who? The God Most High, they called it. The ancient Sumerians called their God An or Anu, A-N or A-N-U. And it was written down in a star form on cuneiform. Very, very interesting why.
Sure.
Now he had 2 sons. An had Enlil and also Enki. Anu translated from ancient Sumeria means heaven and was used to refer to the God Most High, the parent God. Then Enki, translated from Sumerian, literally means Lord.
Those are false gods. To be honest, very false gods. They're talking rubbish here. I get that's what they called them. And my American friend talks in
Of
this.
the earth. And then Enlil was also known as the king of the gods, just like his father An, the God Most High. The Sumerians also say that he, Enlil, was the one who sent the flood. Now, there's a lot to unpack here, and we will get to it as we continue with the series. And then when you find out who they really are, and who we know them as today, it is going to shock. But I want to get back very quickly to something important. From Adam to Noah, there was 10 generations. But the 7th generation, something started to happen. The world became very evil. And it's this time where the fallen angels spread, this is a bad word, but anyway, slept with human women to create the mixed breeds of fallen angel and human DNA. The Sumerians called the fallen angels and the Nephilim gods. All of them. The Apocrypha books call them Watchers and the Shining Ones, aka Nephilim. Other cultures later also call them gods, titans, and demigods. Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying this video so far, but I have some big and exciting news to share. I'm writing a novel with my brother set in the world before the flood. I have to say, it's going to feel like a mix
Just
of
a
fantasy
book, but it's very
and
shareable as
fiction,
well.
much like Lord of the Rings.
Then we get the card.
Narnia.
That's a fake. That's a
Here's the best
fictional
part.
book.
It's based
Fake
on
book.
biblical and archaeological
That's
truths.
fictional,
In this
right?
book, we're diving deep into the ancient world of
Fictional.
fallen angels, the Nephilim,
That's what happened.
and the family lines of Adam, specifically Seth and Cain. We get to experience how they lived in cities like Nippur and Eridu. How they fell into darkness, and how they became so evil in a world filled with beasts and dragons, like the Behemoth and Leviathan, described in the book of Job. you've ever wondered what the world was like before the flood, in this novel, it's going to bring it to life in a way you could never seen before. It's packed with action, spiritual battles, and deep insights into humanity's early struggles. And here's the exciting part. I'm giving you, my amazing subscribers, all of you who follow me here in DLN, free access to the first few chapters of the book for free. All you gotta do is click the link in the video description below, enter your name and email, and we'll send it to you as soon as it is ready. Now, if you're watching this video much later, this book might already be out. So you can just get it at our website, www.dln-christianlifestyle.com. Now, this book is also perfect for non-believers or even those on the fence with their faith, because it's a gripping story that pulls you in, and before you know it, if you run about in the middle to the end of the book, you'll realize how it aligns with God's Word. Thanks for sticking with me. Now, let's get back.
Don't forget to comment, like, share, subscribe,
Let me read you this
Most video right never go on the studios, spiritual living God, watching God,
the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. These were the mighty men
God, watching God,
the men of
the Baptist for shows God versus Life, has a prayer and a copy of
and this time people moved away from worshiping the God Most High and started to worship these gods, fallen angels as gods, and also
reactions
their
and
offspring.
his preaching
These
reactions.
Greeks, Nephilim,
I see
as
Melbourne, and
especially
atheism,
when
agnosticism, skepticism.
became so evil
Really that did every breakdown of atheism, agnosticism, skepticism, religious aspect. Especially with that, and China series of video, and I've got my stupid annoying ass. Got the cooking video. Got the cooking video, and I got the other video. Got the cooking video. Got the cooking video. Got the cooking video, got the
in the new diesel GW9
video,
tank.
got the cooking video,
From
Bible
a
studies.
major point of view, there's one that really sticks with me, and it was a client that we come from an provider. This client was bedbound, and they had said that he was hardship and only had made 2 months of life. And I went in as a care manager and met with the family. They were fatigued, they were stressed, they were upset because Dad was not getting better. And I said, nope, this is not what's going to be the case. We're going to get him better.
According to Genesis, Noah was a righteous man. God saved him and his family. So after the flood, they repopulated the earth. Other cultures called him different names because they have different languages. And we get an idea of how big
Oh, child.
have been up until the Tower of
That's
Babel.
rubbish. That's
It
absolutely.
was roughly over 60 families
That's
before
true.
the Tower of Babel, which is over 8,000 people in just 3 generations. If you use the timeline of the Masoretic text. The Septuagint text timeline will work out even more. Then at the Tower of Babel, of course, God confused their languages and they spread throughout the world, but there were still people living there in ancient Mesopotamia after the Tower of Babel. A. John M. Osgood wrote, the population 350 years after the flood could be massive. Theoretically, if we do not count conflict, disease, and infant mortality, a figure of 3.5 million could be present if we use the number of males in the first and second generations mentioned in Genesis 10. And assume an average male reproduction rate of 3 generations and a generation time of 30 years, according to Genesis 11. The population would be 88 million if at this time it was a 4-family generation, and 634 million if a 5-family generation. I have approximated the count of first and second generation post-flood male groups in Genesis 10 to be 65. Of course, this is only counting males. We doubled that for the total population. So who are the people right after the flood, before the Tower of Babel, and also after? Well, we need to look at Noah's sons. Noah had 3 sons, Ham, Shem, and Japheth. Of course, there were also the Nephilim. Remember, Genesis 6 says there were the Nephilim in those days and also afterwards. But it will take me a whole video just to explain how it is possible that they can be there afterwards as well, after the flood. But we need to start here with Noah's sons. So let's start with Shem first. Shem brought forth Elam, Asher, Arphaxad, Lut, and Aram. So he is important because for those of you who do not know, he is the father of a lot of nations, but one of those nations is Israel. Of course, the father of Israel is Abraham, and Abraham comes from Shem. Now this is extremely important because Abraham is the 9th generation from Shem. Shem was still alive when Abraham was. A lot of people don't know this. This is important to understand. Remember, Shem and his 2 brothers still came from the pre-flood world with good DNA. But after them, the lifespan of people started to be shorter after the flood. Shem lived to be 600 years old, while Abraham died at 175. What is even more shocking is that Shem was still alive when Abraham died. What this means is that Abraham, not just him, but also all of his fathers going up the generations, could have easily learned from Shem and even Noah himself what the pre-flood world was like. That relationship, they could have seen how Noah still worshipped God, the God Most High. And they could have written it down, and we just never discovered it, and maybe it's just lost. And then of course after Abraham, Moses wrote it down. The first 5 books, in fact, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. 5 books. In case you didn't know, the nation of Israel comes from Abraham, his son Isaac, and then Jacob. The Muslims today also through Abraham's son Ishmael. Now the Semites come from Shem. Shem Semites, right? In ancient Sumer. That's where they come from. A lot of people think that
6 minutes left.
Armenians were just
The Ishmaelites were ancestors of Muslims, and the Jews and the Christians came from Isaac and Jacob.
explain this as
That's
it's
true.
Moses called Sumer Shinar because of his Egyptian occupation in the book of Genesis. Genesis 11 verse 1. Now the whole earth had one language and the same words. As people migrated from the east, they found a plain in the land of Shinar, Sumer, and settled there. Now what a lot of people don't know is the first people, the first families who came to the plains to live in ancient Sumeria was the people from Shem, the Semites. Check this out. In AnswersResearchJournal.org, this map shows the Ubite, who is named after Arphaxad, the son of Shem, son of Noah, close to the Iranian Susiana, who is Elam, Samara on the mid-Tigris, Asuna, who is Asher, further north, then Halaf, which is Aram. Now, I want this video to be very interesting, I don't want it to be too long, so I don't have all the time to go into detail of how, the different routes they took from the mountains of Ararat to go into the plains. And we know that from the pottery that we found in different areas. But let me just try to quickly summarize it. The Ubite cultural period is named after a site in southern Iraq today that used to be ancient Persia called Ubite, where a specific type of early pottery was found. The exact same pottery was then found at Eridu,
Very interesting word.
at the lowest level of Peru, and was judged to be one of the earliest cultures in southern Mesopotamia as we know. So let me make it simple. The Ubite culture comes from Ur of the Chaldees. And those who read their Bibles know that this is where Abram comes from, who later became Abraham. The Ubite people, together with Samara on the mid-Tigris, Azuna further north, then Halaf was the earliest archaeologically defined cultures of the Mesopotamian land. In other words, all these cultures were probably Semitic, coming from the line of Shem. known initially as Shemer, Shumer, Sumer, which basically means the land of Shem. This is very important to understand because the Uruk culture came much later from Ham and Hamos, who then erected the Tower of Babel, which was Nimrod, Ham's grandson. This is important to understand because most of the ancient Sumerian writings of the
Frekush.
Gilgamesh come from these people. According to Osgood, all of these cultures can be retrospectively traced back to the areas around the western area close to Lake Urmia, pottery culture and stone cultures. So Lake Urmia is just east of Mount Ararat, and then first came Shem, his family, and then later followed Ham. David Roll, Kubel, and Kramer has indicated that the name Sumer, biblical Shinar, is derived from the name of the father of its first inhabitants, Shem, the second son of Noah. Shem, in brackets Semitic, is from Shemer, Shumer, in brackets Sumerian. The unpronounced R is dropped.
That's right, that's true.
Shemer, Shumer, is known to us as Sumer. The Egyptian name was Sinar and was placed in the Bible as Shinar by the Egyptian trained Moses, a rebuke to the fallacious claims against Mosaic authorship of Genesis. The Egyptians placed Sinar, in brackets Sumer, in ancient Mesopotamia. I want you to put yourself in the shoes of Noah and his sons. What do? You just arrive in Mount Ararat, the waters are still going down. What do? Go far, travel wide? No. First, you start to put up shelters.
Peace out. Prosper.
On and around.
Prosperity.
Wait for the waters to recede. You set up survival camps and you have kids to help you survive in this new world. Then later, once you have set up basic survival strategies, you and your children, as they grow into adults, might start to venture out into different directions. But family groups will stick together to survive. Osgood said, it is likely that as the ice period began to develop after the flood, the mountains would have become less hospitable for some, and so they would have moved down into the plain. Such was the early action of the sons of Shem. But it appears that not so long after this, Cush and his sons followed, settling first in lower Mesopotamia near the Euphrates. Who is this Cush? Well, this is important because Cush is the son of Ham. He is an important figure because Nimrod comes from Cush, who erected the Tower of Babel and who actually became the first world leader. He's very important. And then, what about Adam's other son, Japheth? How do they set up nations, religions, and have war with each other in ancient Mesopotamia with their god or gods? That is what we're going to talk about in part 2 of the series. So please remember, if you're new here, subscribe so you won't miss that video. Never forget, life is short, so do not waste yours. Cheers, guys.
Anyway, yeah, I like this video, it's pretty good. It's still talking rubbish, but yeah, I'll give you things to subscribe to and do want to subscribe to. Anyway, don't forget to comment, like, share, subscribe, share, now. I'll put the link to that in there. And yeah, see you in the next one. Bye.